Okay, the recording is in progress. I'm going to mute everybody just to make sure we don't get audio disturbances. Okay. All right. With that, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Friendly Neighbors introductory session. Before we get started, we want to thank a lot of people actually, but we're going to limit the thanks in this stage for these two entities. One is Gina, and Gina is the platform that we all came together as a group, and Gina has been generous, giving us more than the platform. They gave us their bridge and time to get this group going. And also the state of California. I know this might be a little bit out there. Why are we thanking the state of California? It's because this is the only state where we have the Land Act, where the services to the people with disabilities is a right and not a discretion to the state. And the state has a safety net for our children already. Since we have the basics of the safety net and the services covered, now we are off to doing something new and different, some creative and making improvements. If not for that, then we would be still fighting to do the basic services. So thank you there. Quick logistics before we get started. Please use the chat function to add your comments, your questions. We will have Q&A session towards the end of the presentation, and that's when we will go through the questions that you have posted on the chat, and we will attempt to answer those. So please feel free to use that chat box. All right. So before we get started, I wanted to share this quick story. Now, before I go into the detail, how many of you actually know this story? Can you just say a yes or no, like a Y or N in the chat box? So that I don't go on to say the entire story. How many people know this story? Okay. It's a mixed group. All right. So this is a story from um, the Indian folklore called Panchatantra, where this is a group of birds. They go about their day, and one day they get caught into this net that's put up by a hunter. And these birds are like, oh no, what to do? We are all stuck in this net. And then each bird is like trying to escape on its own. They're not able to do it. Then they talk to each other and say, okay, we're individually not able to do anything about it. How about if we all put our efforts together, then maybe we'll all just fly together and go get free. And that's what they did. They coordinated, they pooled their effort, and off they went. They flew with the net. And they had some very useful friends. They had these mouse friends that you see in this box right here, biting that net and releasing them, setting them free, and then they are free. So individually they might not have achieved it, but together they all went free. So why am I telling the story? We'll come back to that later in the presentation. We'll talk about why. A little bit of introduction about us, the core team. We are a group of parents, just like each of you in this call. And we came together to create a supported and integrated, fulfilling life for our children. So I'm going to take a few minutes to introduce our group. So first, I'm going to call Deepa. Deepa, please introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Deepa Rajan. I have a son with on the spectrum, and he's 29 years old. And I'm very eager to build a community for him so that he can lead a fulfilling life amongst friends and people who are going to become family. So that's why I'm here. Thanks.
Thank you, Deepa. Next, let's go to Hema.
Hi, my name is Hema. Some of you might recognize me as Manav's mom. Manav is my 22 years old autistic adult son with limited abilities. I'm a full-time mom and a part-time BCBA. So a little more than a year ago, I joined hands with these four wonderful ladies, and together we have dared to start a journey, start a dream project where of an inclusive housing for our children. So basically, none of our children are ready to step out of our umbrella, care of umbrella, but we are supporting each other and going one step at a time to make this dream a reality for each of the adults that we are working for, not just five of us, but another few of us who will join us in this journey. Um, Today, we are here to share our journey with all of you, to inspire you, to invite you to join our group. Thank you.
Thank you, Hema. Now let's go on to Jayanti.
Hi everybody, this is Jayanti Dikshit. I have a 26-year-old son with autism. He's a blogger, he's a writer, and I am also a GINA board member, and I'm also serving one of our regional center committee, family committee board as an advisory committee board. And I'm also joining these four wonderful ladies to embark on a new journey to place our children in a safe, a secure environment so that they can thrive rest of their life in that safety nest, who they call their abode. So welcome all.
Thank you, Jayanti. Monica.
I am Monica Malik. I have one son, and he's my only child. 23 at this point, severe, moderate, you can call autistic, but fairly loud and has verbal stims. But yes, like all my other family here now, the four of them, we are trying to build a more closer net for the boys as well and have a safe environment for them. I myself have been in the special education with Delhi Unified, and I've also dealt with event planning and coordination for a while. But at this point, I'm 100% mom since my son's done and over with school and adult program. And this is my job now to make this a reality and to make this dream come true.
Thank you, Monica. And that leaves me, Meena. My name is Meena Chokkalingam Berekar. My background is in project management and change management. Yes, change management is a field. It's a profession. I also have experience in several boards. I'm currently a member of the Regional Center Board of Directors. I'm also a GINA member. Like these ladies mentioned here, I join hands with them um, to see what we can do, to see what we can come up with. We have already our group homes in place, but is there something more that we can do for the areas that we see are needed? So let me go back to our presentation. Okay. So first, I'm going to share a little bit about our journey, and these faces that you see up here are, of course, the reason why we embarked on this journey. And when did we start with this journey, and what did we do so far, right? We started this journey about 18 months ago, the five of us. And there were a couple other volunteer members as well with us. But what did we do in the last 18 months? We wanted to understand what are the housing options available for our children in the state of California. And group homes is one. We know of affordable housing that's done by several other affordable builders out there. And then we also learned about these amazing communities that are listed out there. And we all took the time to learn about each of these communities. And you will see we have made partnerships with some of the communities. You will see more. And in our course of 18 months, we made contacts and we had extensive conversations with about 9 cities, approximately 9 developers, and several realtors. What we tried to do was really to understand the landscape in the private housing and also the landscape of affordable housing. And we did very actively pursue the affordable housing route. The affordable housing is when you create the housing in partnership with the city. and then we invite people to live there. But for various reasons, we decided to change our course from affordable housing into private housing, which is what we're all going to talk about today. This journey in affordable housing really allowed us a lot of networks and connections that we have made along the way. So now, through our journey, we also took the time to put down what is it that we all were looking for our children. We all had the desire and the passion to do something new for our children, but what is it that we really wanted in the home that we are creating for them? So for us as a group, a home is something that is stable for our children, where they don't have to move or change just because their behavior changes or the level of care changes. We wanted them to have a permanent home, so they feel stable. We wanted them to be integrated, not isolated. Not to say they are going to institutions, but still, even in a group home situation where they are isolated into their own environment, their own home, we wanted to see if there is more opportunities for them to be integrated in the community. I mean, that's the concept behind mainstreaming in schools, and we all actively pursued mainstreaming in schools. So when they become an adult, why not pursue that approach? So that's one of the things that was top on our mind. Then comes peace of mind after me. Now, this is a big one that we all deal with. What will happen after me? So we wanted to see, is there something more that we can do to give ourselves the peace of mind? Yes, we all have our ADUs, or we all have our individual solutions for our child, and we know they are going to be fine until we are there to make sure those operations are running smoothly. But after us, how can we ensure those operations are running smoothly? So we wanted a place that can give us that security and safety that this will be taken care of. Social recreational. Most of our children, if you notice, are very social. They do have their own challenges, but regardless of the level of care they have, they all want to have that relationship, that friendship with others. So we wanted to see if this home can provide them these opportunities to mingle and interact. And last but not least, safe from neglect and abuse. We do hear this from time to time. It wrenches our heart, and those stories. Is there something we can do about that? Is there something we can put in place that will reduce the possibility or even remove the possibility of neglect and abuse? So these are some of the characteristics that we as a group wanted in our home. And to connect, we saw with the options out there, we saw that some of the aspects were met in many of the communities, but we wanted to take it a step further to see, can we pick and choose and bring all of these aspects into a community? And so we formed Friendly Neighbors. And of course, all of that you saw in the previous slide put together is really what our mission is and our guiding principles are. We wanted to create a safe, stable, and permanent, enjoyable housing for our adults, and we wanted to have some level of integration with the neurotypical adults, members of the community. So our guiding principles are: residents should be able to stay where they are, regardless whatever change that they are going through in their behavior or care. And residents should be free, and the residents should be part of the community. So that really brought us to form Friendly Neighbors as a community, and this is our mission and guiding principles. So how do we make this mission tactical? How do we achieve these guiding principles? So these are 4 core pillars that we see in the Friendly Neighbors that will allow us to achieve those. So in this model that we're talking about, in this Friendly Neighbors community, we are looking to create individual apartments for each resident. Why individual apartments? Mainly because what we have learned from other communities, when residents share their homes, there is a greater chance of the changes in the behavior and care impacting the other resident, and therefore when it comes to a point where it's not sustainable for the staff in that home, then they have to move. So in our community, we wanted to make a design where the individual can live their life. Whatever services and supports they need due to the change of care or behavior will come to them. And at the same time, they will not impact the other residents because they're going to have their own privacy. Supportive neighbors. So this is the mainstreaming aspect where we are thinking this is an apartment community, which is not exclusively for IDD residents. This is an apartment community open for all. So we will have neurotypical members of the community live alongside the IDD residents, and we call them supportive neighbors. So the thought here is the supportive neighbors will be the extra pair of eyes and ears, and they do that. They bring that natural support. I'm not sure how many of you were into this natural peer support in school. Yes, we all look for aides, the aides that are paid and trained to do the job. But oftentimes, if you notice, the effective aide is really a peer who models them and who reminds them of the behavior, expected behavior. And that is our children tend to accept those reminders from the peer much more effectively than coming from the aide. So anyway, this is an opportunity to build that natural support in an adulthood. Community manager. So this is a role, and this can be played by one member or multiple members, but this role is a role that we see will be managing the community, meaning that oversees the support systems, will step in when there is a backup care needed, and this role will also facilitate the enrichment activities. That goes against to the social and recreational aspect. The day programs and coming back to the TV should not be the only activity for our children in their adulthood. There needs to be some additional recreational activities like a movie or a picnic or just hang out, and watch something with the friends and neighbors. And that's really what we're honing in here, to have some sort of an enrichment activities for the residents in this community and bring all the members together. So the IDD as well as the neurotypical members come together to enjoy this enrichment activities. Last but not least, the training units. What is this training unit? Now, we want our community to be giving back and not only receiving end of the spectrum for the services. So this is a way that we will allow that two-way interaction between the friendly neighbors and the rest of the community. So this is the thought that we will have maybe one or multiple units for rent that can be used to train IDD adults for living independently. It can also be used as a respite care unit in case of emergency if the parents need to travel. The IDD adult can come and live there for respite. And of course, this will be in partnership with the regional center or the Department of Rehabilitation, wherever that partnership is necessary. But this is an aspect that we see will open the doors for others to come into the community. And it's not an exclusive community where the doors are locked and nobody knows what's going on inside. That's absolutely the opposite of what we're trying to do. All right. And feel free, for those of you that have joined late, if you have questions, we will get to the questions at the end of the presentation. Put it in the chat, and our team members are looking at the chat, and they will compile and bring the questions at the time of Q&A. And universal design. So this community, in our vision, in our dream, will follow the universal design standards and best practices to allow the children to age in place. And again, this is, like I said, it's regardless of the level of care, regardless of the support they need, whether as an adult with mobility issues or care issues, or as a senior, when they become a senior and they still need the similar kind of services, they get to stay in their home, just much like how we all want to stay in our home, as much as possible. Okay. Now, what are some of the additional details? So these are some of the additional thoughts that we have about our community. There will be common areas, again, to promote the social aspect. We have a I'm going to think that this is a mistake, so I'm going to decline that. We have clubhouse, courtyard, similar social areas which typical apartment community offers, and a little bit more. The training kitchen and sensory garden are a little bit special to our population because we see that this is something that is well needed and well used by all the IDD residents in other communities. So we wanted to carry over. For those of you that joined a little late, I did mention that we went through this exploration journey of learning what's out there. And the model that we have put together is really based on our learnings, and we have tried to pick the best from each of the communities that we had the fortune of interaction with. All right, location considerations. Now, this is on top of everyone's mind. So where are we thinking about this community? Is in Southern California, because all of us live in Southern California. So we wanted it to be somewhere near so we can be there to make sure the community is built and running smoothly. This is a key factor for us. We want it to be closer to major universities because the target audience for supportive neighbors, largely the target audience for support neighbors is the students. Students tend to be a little bit open and flexible, and I know there's the other aspect of student which you all are thinking, the party aspect, and how we are going to think about it. We'll address that in the next few slides because again, there is another community that has done this, and we have picked up the concept from them and kind of improved it a little bit. Safe city and neighborhood, of course, disability-friendly neighborhood, easy access to day programs, services, social and recreational activities. These are some of the things that we would want for ourselves, even when we find a new place to live. So those are all our criterias to find cities. So this is the model that we have conceived and put together from our research in the exploration phase. So how now do we make it a reality? So then comes the Friendly Neighborhood, the Friendly Neighbors LLC. Friendly Neighbors, as I mentioned, is a private ownership model where each parent purchases a share. Before we look into what a share means and what do you get for a share, I want to quickly pull upon that the dove story that we saw at the beginning. Remember how the individual doves couldn't do anything, but when they all came together, they were able to like lift themselves up, fly, and become free. Same thing. We have this vision, we have these wonderful concept and model that we have painstakingly researched and put together. But the five of us don't have the financial means to make this a reality. If you haven't guessed, all of us, all of us are middle class, and there's not one of us with deep pockets that can make this happen. And in many communities, we noticed that there were one or two founders who had the means to pull it off. They bought the land, they at least got themselves started, and then brought people in. But our model is truly based on pulling the parents together because not one of us have that financial means. So that's where we are going into this parent purchase a share model. Each of us will put our money, we will create this LLC, which is the company, and then the company will build or purchase this apartment community that we just described. So that's what we say a parent share. Now, what do you get for your share? When you purchase a share in this Friendly Neighbors LLC, what do you get? So you become a member of Friendly Neighbors LLC, and as a member parent, you get a spot and a voice in the community because we are just building as the initial members. We brought the ideas together and we have a model and design, but we are still in a place where we want other parents to come and bring their needs and ideas to shape this community. You saw the core pillars, but that's only at a high level. There's so much detail that goes into making it a reality. That's where each member will get to play a role. Integration with the neighborhood. What do we mean by this? This is, there were so many parents that we know who have successfully created private housing. Either they created an ADU in their backyard, or they put them in a group home, and both are great options. And there are some terrific group homes out there, and there are some ADUs running successfully, but there's not many opportunities to integrate with the neighborhood. In this model where we are talking about the apartment complex with two sets of the community living together, the integration opportunities are naturally available. Access to enrichment activities, I think nothing more needed there. Peace of mind. So remember, if you are creating a model, then you or the extended family member after you will have the sole burden. I don't want to say burden, because I do have children too, and but we do see it as a burden, and some children may or may not see it as a burden, but they are on their own. How many of our, I have three children, and Rohan is just one of them. My oldest, he will get involved if I ask him to get involved. He has some idea, but he doesn't have an idea about how I have to fill out the redetermination form every year, how I have to do the IPP meeting every year. So, what we are saying here is, it's not one person's burden. At least they have like a community of people trying to figure this out after their parents, and they can rely on each other to say, hey, how do you do this? Or hey, manager of the community, help me. How do I go about this? And we want this to be a bigger problem, and not a bigger problem, a bigger solution, connecting everyone, so it's not one individual's problem. So together we solve for that peace of mind. They they can handle it, but they will also have support when they don't know how to handle it. So you get a group, basically. Flexibility. So, and this is something that we thought really long and hard about, and we learned from all the communities out there. Once a member comes into the LLC, there are so many reasons why a member might want to move out of the community, and they relocate, their needs change, or this is no longer a fit for them, but whatever may be the reason. So we want to make sure that there is flexibility for members to exit the LLC just as they enter. So the way that we have seen outside in other communities is the refunds are largely comprised of the contribution minus the expenses that have been going on. Now, the expenses is such a blanket statement. There's a lot more details to it, but I'm not going to give you all the details in this session. This is meant to be a high-level overview. But suffice to say that there will be an exit clause for parents that need to exit. Intentionality. Again, this community is really made with an intention of creating integration and that long-term support for our children. So after a parent, the extended family member may not use this for profit-making purposes. When the share price of the market goes up, then there might be temptations to sell the share for a better price. So there will be safeguards against that. So we protect the intentionality of why we are putting this model together. And again, we have samples and templates that we can leverage from the communities who have already done this work. And I feel that's our biggest advantage for being here at this time, in a bigger scheme of things in 2022 or 2020, trying to figure this out. There's so many other parents who have embarked on this journey and who couldn't complete their dream to a reality, and there's a handful that actually did make their dream a reality. And we had the good fortune of learning from both sets of parents, and there are successful running communities. So we have a template to pick from and to leverage and build upon. So luckily, we're not in a place to build everything from scratch and reinvent the wheel. The residents. Now let's talk about the two sets of residents in this community. One is our IDD residents, which is all our adult children. So the IDD resident, of course, will live a secure, safe community, in an integrated community. They will enjoy the social recreational opportunities. They will lead a fulfilling life because they have friends to hang out with. And they see them every day and they hang out with them on a regular basis. So, and that's how friendship develops. And that's what we do. We hang out with the same set of people, and that's where our network comes from. And importantly, the IDD adult will pay a rent. And I think most of you are aware, um, that's the nature of things. Like when you purchase a share, that stays with the parent or the family member or in the trust. The IDD residents themselves may not own a share for SSI reasons, so they will pay a rent. Neurotypical residents. Okay, so now we talk about the partying college kids. If we do get the partying college kids, how do we make sure that they are that flexible and cooperative and engaging neurotypical resident that we want them to be? Now, the incentive for the neurotypical resident is a subsidized rent. But in order to get there, we will have an application process where the potential residents will apply. They will go through a screening process and possibly an interview to be selected to be part of the community. And each of these members will also sign, each of these residents will also sign a residency agreement, which talks about the rules that they would follow in order to stay qualified for that subsidized rent and to stay qualified to live in the community. So that's the neurotypical residency side. And also a quick point to note, I didn't say this earlier, all of our children, the 5 of our children, happen to be male, but our community is open to all genders and all type of disabilities. I mean, most of our kids are autistic, but my son isn't. He has something called Angelman syndrome. So we are open to all type of disabilities, the community that we are building to. Okay, what comes next? So how do we make this a dream to reality? If you haven't guessed, this is a 100% parent-driven effort. We all came together and we educated ourselves, the 5 of us. If you notice, none of us have prior experience in creating housing. We all have a variety of background, but we have come together with that passion and desire to do something about this. So we have been doing our own learning and research. So the reason I'm stating this is that it should not stop you from thinking, well, I don't have any background or I don't know what housing is. Well, welcome to the club. That's who we are too. But like I said, we are very fortunate to be in this place at this time because we have a few partners. Actually, one of our partner is in the call. So let me show who they are. Mark Jackson, who is the co-founder of Sweetwater Spectrum Community. And actually, Mark is with us in the call. So Mark, thank you. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to support you every way I can.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And Mark can tell if you ask him like how we went on and on when we met. Like we can go about how about this, how about that, and Mark has these templates like you won't believe, and he'll be like, "Well, this is how we did it, and this is what you should be thinking about." Mark has no less than 10 points every time he says something. It's never like 1 point or 2 point. It's like 10 or more. Anyway, that just shows the wisdom that we have to us. So that's the guidance we get. Liz, who's our attorney, who's actually helping us incorporate the LLC as we speak. We're in the process of creating our LLC. Heidi Carton. Heidi is the founder and executive director of Coastal Haven. This is a community in Bay Area, just like Sweetwater Spectrum. Coastal Haven is near Santa Cruz. And what's important about this community is they have neurotypical residents living in their community. So the residency agreement that we just talked about, a lot of ideas come from Heidi there. And then Raji is our architect who's helping us as we speak. We're also looking at land in Southern California and property. And Raji has been the architect that engaged with us to see if the lands fit our design and model and everything. Ashley Kim, Together for Choice, she's the housing advocate and she is a big player in the affordable housing space, and she has great connections with the city. And you may have guessed, like if you're going to create an apartment community which is going to house adults with disabilities, then there is a good level of relationship that you need to build with the city. And so that's where we see Ashley coming into play. Jack Stanton. Jack is the Associate Director of Housing for Regional Center of Orange County. And Jack was the consultant member in our working group at the beginning. And he was there when we were actually building this model from scratch in paper, when we were building this model in paper. And it would be like, Jack, can we do this? Is this workable? Does regional center allow this? Will the services, because largely what we are doing is housing. The service aspect, we are relying on the state of California. We already said thank you to them. So we are going to rely on the state of California for our services. And we want to make sure the model that we are building is as per the rules and regulations that the Department of Developmental Services, the Home and Community-Based Services all put in place. And so Jack is our consultant there to make sure our model fits in the criteria so the services are available for the residents. Last but not least, Aaron. Aaron runs Casadiyama. That is a community in Southern California. So Aaron is our consultant for the operations phase when we have the building almost ready and we want to start thinking about the services and operations and how the community manager will come into play. That's where Aaron will help us. So we have this treasure trove of experts for almost every phase that we are going in. Speaking of phases, actually, let me quickly show you a high-level roadmap of what phases we're talking about. So phase 1 is the formation, where we all came together, we did our exploration, we created our mission, and we created this model in paper. Phase 2, that's where we are in, the land acquisition phase. And like we said, we did the groundwork, we did the research, we put the model together. Now we are ready to invite other parents who are thinking in this line and who want to partner with us. And this is more like a startup, but a startup with a lot of experienced people in the back, because we are literally pulling the money. And we don't want to start, we could easily go the finance route, the loan route, but we want to reduce the debt that we are leaving for the children as much as possible. So we are trying to see, can we put all our heads together, put all our pockets together, and make this as a debt-free community? But we'll see. So the land acquisition phase, that's where we are. Phase 3 is the architecture design. And it's important that we get most of our members before we actually do the design of the building and the units, because each of our children have needs, and this is going to be inclusive of everyone's needs. So that's why, another reason why we want the parents to come now, so that we can be thinking of all the different nuances in the needs and services as we build the design, the architecture of this community. Phase 4 is construction. And as construction is happening, we will create the engagement. We will continue the engagement with the regional center, the city, and the support services agencies. Phase 5 is moving and beyond, and it's only moving is just the beginning of the next set of activities that we need to put in place, the operations phase. So those are our 5 phases. I'll give just a few minutes, a quick time check. Okay. And there we are. We are at a time to now talk about questions. Thank you for listening to me. I think that was a nonstop 30-minute that I was just talking to you. So thank you. Now let's open the floor for some questions. And I'm going to ask Deepa and Hema and Deepa. Their responsibility was to compile the questions, and I think Deepa is going to ask the questions on your behalf, the questions we have had so far. So Deepa, what do
Yeah.
we have?
I'm just going to ask them in the order in which they came in, so they may be, a little all over the place. So,
Sure.
will there be any criteria for neurotypical residents who rent and live alongside?
Yes, absolutely. There's going to be a long list of criteria. When we sign a renter's agreement, I doubt if we would read all the sections that are listed in the renter's agreement, right? And for neurotypical residents, that's going to be a little bit more accentuated because this is the first time they are coming in, and we want to make sure that they understand what they are getting into, and at the same time, um, make them responsible adults for their adult life. So yes, there will be extensive set of regulations, and we will build it together. There is a round two, if I haven't said that yet. we I know this particular audience, we have a variety of audience here, parents with children of all ages. So our hope is everything if you see is at all at a high level, we want to give you the idea. And then those who are interested to actually jump in and partner with us, we want to get you into round two, and that's when we will talk about the specifics and the numbers and details like that. And we have just the five of us. We have what we have learned from others so that we have a criteria to start with. By no means that's not the criteria for neurotypical residents. There's going to be more that we will add based on all of your input.
Okay.
I hope that
Next
gives you an
question.
idea. Yes.
Where is this community planned in CA?
Yes. So the community is planned in Southern California. And I know Southern California is so vast. Um, just to give you some markers, we're looking in suburban areas, in urban suburban areas closer to major universities. That's where we're going after. Right now, we have not limited ourselves to certain cities. We are open to Southern California near major universities, just to kind of give you an idea. And we want to be open ourselves. As we are going through the search, because for us the location is really important. The location that fits all our criteria that you saw, our major criteria, is important. So we are not tying ourselves to certain cities.
Is it near LA or San Diego?
It could be LA or San Diego, actually. In we there were several properties that we went through recently, and they were literally stretched from there were some in San Diego, and we saw some in LA and beyond. So yeah, it's going to be spread across where we get a land that fits our criteria and that meets our budget, both put together.
Okay, it was mentioned that the idea was picked from an existing community. Can you share some details about the community?
Yeah, the idea was picked from several existing communities. There's Sweetwater Spectrum, there's Coastal Haven, like I mentioned, for the neurotypical residents. There's Villa de Vida. They have that apartment style living. And if you haven't visited Sweetwater Spectrum in Sonoma, once you go there, you'll fall in love. So that Sweetwater Spectrum had this common areas of where people come together, and those different homes where each of the residents will share. So we picked the best of that appealed to us in each of the communities, and we put it together. So that's why we call this a unique community, because we have features from different communities in this community.
Yeah, thanks, Veena. Is this planned for adult children only? What about parents of kids on the autism spectrum?
Yes, all types of disabilities are welcome in this community. The parents of adult children, now that what is the age? I think that's what you're getting at, right? What is the age of the resident in this community? Now, ideally, I think this community is open for um, people who are really in the need, like ready to move. If you look at our five children, right, there was a 28, there was a 18. So it's a little bit of a range out there. So right now we have not drawn a line to say it's going to be this is the cutoff age and it's going to be everyone after this age. And like I said, this is a venture that we're starting, so we want to be open to see what kind of interest do we have. If there are parents with children at the lower end of that number, the age, but are interested in joining hands and getting this up and running, and when the child is ready to move in, we are open to it. So right now we don't have that line drawn.
How many units are being planned?
So our current plan is to have the total of everything, which is the IDD residents, neurotypical residents, the training units, um, everything put together, about 30, under 30 is what we're going after. So that's our scale, under 30.
Will there be a time limit on how long the neurotypical person will be allowed to stay? And you may have already covered this, Meena. There'll be a lease, right?
Yes,
Um,
there will be a lease. And again, the whole idea is to develop those friendships. And if, let's say, a neurotypical resident develops a friendship and they are very good resident and contributor to the community, then yes, we probably extend the lease for them to stay a little longer. So we all get the benefit of that relationship that they have already invested in building.
Okay.
Yep.
What is the estimated time for phase 5?
Great question. Now, based on what we have seen out there, the land is the longest pole in the tent. The acquiring of the land has taken anywhere from 1 year to 5 years. I'm not kidding. But we are not setting ourselves to that 5 years. Our goal is to get to phase 5 by 2024. I think we don't have the time frame there, so that's a good question. Phase 5 is 2024. That's what we are after.
Mhm. Okay, now some questions about the apartment.
Yes.
Will each share effectively by one apartment, and what would be the shape and size?
Um, that's a good question. Um, Ideally, I think each parent will get a share, one share. Now, if you have multiple children, let's say if you have more than one child and you want to buy more units, then absolutely, I think that should be an option. So we currently don't have, I mean, based on the intentionality, right? That's our guiding principle. Like, we don't want people to use this as a mechanism to make profits. We want to make sure that the intentionality is secured, is protected. So, with that in mind, there will be a cap for how many each parent can buy, depending on how many children they have. So, that is something that we will determine depending on the demand.
Can parents rent one of the apartments for neurotypical folks?
This is something that we have discussed as a group among ourselves. Um, I think we don't have a definite answer on that. I think that one needs more discussion internally for us. And again, all in the sense of we want to make sure the intentionality is protected. People are not making money, but at the same time, we want to have neurotypical residents. And the idea is currently the LLC will rent out to the neurotypical residents the units that we have built, and the parents are purchasing a share for their child to have the IDD resident to have an apartment. So, in short, I think this is something that we can discuss further. Again, these are great questions, and we want you to be part of the discussion to help us get to the answers. From our perspective, we have created certain, pillars and certain areas that we think are the essence that we need to keep for the community. The rest of them we will build as we go, and with the input of the members that join us. I think that's the key. Right now, we don't have everything set in stone, so that's the key. When you come in, you have a voice to help us shape that.
Mhm. Just a couple of quick questions. One is on, do adults work with their SLS and ILS services as they join the community? I guess
Yes.
the answer to that is yes.
Yes, each adult resident brings their own support services to the community, and the community manager will oversee and make sure the supports are flowing in a manner that's designed for them. So the individual will bring the support services with them, ILS or SLS.
Yeah, good. What are the options for adults to engage in day programs or other activities within the community?
So the day programs will exist outside the community. we want the residents to go to their day programs and come back. The type of enrichment activities that we are talking about in the community are more to create opportunities for all the residents to come together and mingle. So there would be a game night or a movie night, or a bingo or a picnic, yoga. Those are the enrichment activities that we're thinking inside the community. And we don't want to bring the day program inside the community.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What are the expected interactions with IDD and the neurotypical residents?
Yes. So like I mentioned, the IDD and the neurotypical residents, they will have opportunities to come together with these enrichment activities. The enrichment activities are, common to every resident in the apartment. So that opens up the door for everyone to come and participate. And, this is also something as an expectation that we will set with the neurotypical residents that as they come in. And of course, there is also an opportunity, let's say, um, the parents are willing, they could have a neurotypical adult renting in the same apartment as their IDD adult. So let's say there's 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom is for the IDD adult, and 1 bedroom is for the neurotypical adult. So that is also an option if you want a closer interaction. That's a choice that the parents can have. The LLC itself will have separate units that will be rented to the neurotypical adults. There is, and this is far beyond, but since we are going closer to the universities, there might be possibilities to make this as some sort of a curriculum requirement. I mean, that's really, really down the road. Our first focus is really to get the community up and running. But that's an area that we have seen from the Camp Hill, where they have certain type of curriculum built into these neurotypical individuals that live in the community. So that is also an option.
Right. For continuity purposes, that'll be great. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
Can the sorry,
I'll
Meena,
take
go
one
ahead.
more question, Deepa, and then I want to cover the last slide before people start dropping off.
Okay. Just one quick question. Can the IDD adults be eased in, like by staying part-time at the community, as they're getting used to it?
Absolutely. Guess what? This is your apartment, right? You bought this apartment. So you come in and go. As you work with your schedule. And I say that lightly, but the truth is our children need a lot of training, right? So we are not going to move them in one day and going to say bye bye to them. The initial, I think it was, I don't know if it was Hema, but initially we were talking about how the parents will live with them for a few days and kind of ease them in. It really depends on the child too. If your child is someone who needs that level of hand holding, by all means, that's something that we should do. And there is also the school of thought where you don't want to live with your child for too long, then they become dependent on you, and now they have separation anxiety when you move out. So there is a balance to be had, but as far as moving in and transitioning them, you have the flexibility.
Awesome. I guess we'll have to get back to some of the other questions, Meena, if you want to wrap it
Yes.
up.
Yes. Let me quickly share this last slide. And all the questions that you have asked here, we plan to create an FAQ and put it up in our website. Our website is like bare bones right now. So, we are kind of building it as we go. So we will put these question and answers there and we'll notify you so you know when it is up there. Now, I mentioned about the round 2. So if this is something that resonates with you, if this is something that you want to be part of, and whatever that may be, right? Like you want to be a parent actively contributing and looking for a place for your child, or if this is something that you want to be plugged in as a volunteer and you want to be part of this effort. Again, this is something new that we are doing, something unique that we're doing. So you can put your efforts in with us to make this a reality. That is also a possibility. We request you to fill out an interest form. There are some basic questions there that we have, so we may understand you. So help us fill out that interest form, and then for those that are interested, we will bring them back to round 2, where we will double click on all the aspects that we discussed today. And that'll give you more details on each of those aspects. And then, of course, there is a link to our website. You can stay connected there. I guess that's it. So I know we are right at the top of the hour, so please feel free to drop off. And we thank you for all of you for showing up. I know this is a Memorial Day weekend, long weekend that everyone would like to travel, and having all of you here is a big boost for us that you took the time and it's important for you. So thank you.
Would you like to address the other questions, or would you like to just post it? There's just a few more questions
We'll
left.
post the answers.
We'll post them in the website in our
Yeah.
FAQ, and we'll let you guys know.
A lot of additional questions. Yeah, we won't be able to get to all of them. So.
Yep. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you.
So I'm going to stop
Meena,
the recording. Hold on one second.
Meena, and everybody, great effort. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation.